So I think this is the fastest like piece of content I've ever developed for us. I slapped this together pretty quick.
Well, I'm into it.
But it won't be just kind of out of nowhere. Like this is
stuff you've been contemplating.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, I had something else in mind last night, and then I changed it at the last second this morning because I had a nightmare about this episode.
You did? You're like, no, don't do it.
Seriously. Yeah. So my grandfather died like in the 90s.
Sure.
Before you and I even met. And I had this dream about him that he had like come back to life. And he looked different. Like it was a different man. But everyone was accepting this person as my grandfather. Like all of my family.
It's like that Black Mirror episode.
Is there a Black Mirror episode like that?
With that like pale redhead guy that like the girlfriend gets him back after it's like
but it's not him.
But it's not him.
It's like parts of him.
Yeah.
Like it's like an AI version.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, this dude like looks different in the dream. But like in my subconscious mind,
you're like, that's my grandpa.
Yeah, it's like accepting it, but not like, you know. And at some point, dude, I kid you not, this is how this kind of worked out. He goes out in front of like, I think it's my grandma's house or something, wherever this dream space was. He gets in the car and then all of a sudden it lights on fire, like it's burning and he's burning alive in this car. And he looks at me and smiles and says, "You have too many Izzet decks." With this like rictus terrifying grin. And then I wake up with like in a cold sweat. So
what
needless to say, I changed my mind about what I'm going to talk about today. I changed it a little bit.
Did you, because somebody was saying shit about that in the Discord, right? Was that like planted in your brain a little bit or something?
Like several months ago, I think it came up. Yeah. But no, I had if you're like, hey, Andy, we need content soon because you're trying to work on this whole before you go thing to have it make sense. And I'm going to be like, okay, well, if I've got to hurry, like, where am I going to go?
Like, where am I spending my time?
Yeah. So I wanted to, maybe I'm going to do more of these. I think we've done similar things to this where we've tried to look at a specific legend commander and look at them through different lenses, where the deck would be different, but the commander remains the same. I mean, I think you could do this with a lot of commanders, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was like testing it out with the original episode we did about General Marhalt and Takesha, like some of those types of...
and then I guess in a way, you and I did this where it was like, hey, let's resurrect one of your legends and I'll resurrect your, vice versa. Yeah. So it's going to just look different because you go about your deck building process is just different than mine, right?
Yeah.
Not radically different, but like different enough.
Yeah.
But I've been thinking about this lately, attempting different, I think, deep tissue builds is what I'll call it, I guess, on some of the legends I've been working with since we nuked our whole roster.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've been messing around with quite a lot is the fundamentals around how the mana is built into the deck.
Right.
I kind of went on a little bit of a tirade about it in the last episode, so I think I would just kind of like follow through with a demonstration a little bit of what I've been doing. Okay. And the listener can either, tell me to get bent or, I don't know, like maybe think about their own roster and be like, okay, where does this work? So just to kind of recap, I think what I hit on a little bit on the last episode was I'm finding that some of my decks aren't very friendly with spending the early game and a lot of card slots devoted to mana artifacts specifically. I didn't bring up mana dorks. I didn't bring up, things like nature's lore or whatever. So that is not what I'm talking about today, and I didn't talk about it before. That's a different style of ramp that I think is a little different and should be considered not the way I'm attacking this.
Sure.
It's a different dimension, I think, a different direction.
Yeah, that's fair.
So some of my decks, I think, want to have those early phases of developing an artifact to field and have, our best imitation of a extra land play, right? If I'm in a non-green deck, most of the time. I almost never run signets in green decks, and I bet a lot of people don't. I mean, that's not crazy to say.
Yeah.
Others, I was going along with it. I kept that kind of just built in, because for years I was like, hey, we do 35 and 10 or 35 and 12 or 38 and whatever. Like there was a bunch of lands and a bunch of artifacts kind of just automatically built into decks. Yeah. My way of building decks to start a deck is I go online, I obviously pick the commander, I load that into the website I like to use, and then I fill in the land slots right away. I don't waste time with, they have to be there. So, for years it was like, okay, 35 forests or 35 islands or something, and I'll figure out what the lands are later, but those slots are taken.
Yeah.
And then I would just start working through ye old ramp package. There's the Soul Ring, there's the Arcane Signet, there's Talisman of X and this, and Talisman and Signet and blah. And then when I've got my base, I would start actually adding the 99 cards. So like my favorite draw cards in that color, or the stuff that makes the best synergistic sense with what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And it would just move from there. Right.
Yeah.
And it became mindless. Like it's just a convulsive, mindless activity, actually, that those first parts of putting a deck together.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I'll just say from my experience across my most common color identities, I built templates.
Yeah. You can do that.
I just copy that deck and then start building around the commander with it, it's the same philosophy rather than building it from scratch. It's like, okay, I have all of those things in here, and it makes it mindless a little bit, right? And you don't have to think about, I have more recently, I think, to maybe segue back to you, more recently been thinking about like, hey, don't just take for granted that these are the things that fit here. Like there may be ramp that fit better with this commander, or there may be draw that fits better with this commander.
Yeah.
Like don't take for granted that just the staples work here. But I think that's kind of what you're getting at, is where you're starting to think about this as well too.
Yeah. There was an episode of Commander Theory where Zach kind of said like every deck's different. Every deck's a snowflake. Sometimes the lands need to be at this count and the ramp needs to be here. He kind of said like there isn't really like a one size fits all pattern to a deck. And I agree with that, but I don't want to just kind of leave it open ended and talk about what makes sense. I don't know. I want to give some kind of direction, like a compass, not like a map, but for what I think is working for me and the things that I'm kind of seeing to try to put the recipe together. Yeah. So this is me just fully being transparent. It's something I'm kind of doing lately. It's not something I've done for years. It's just not, it is a little different, but sometimes it feels right when I finish the list and I'm like, okay, this is flowing well. This is fine. I'm hitting I'm hitting the things I need to hit. And then other times it's like, this is just not working. It feels choky and it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I'll try it the other way. So it gives me kind of a way to approach the same legend in two different directions, where it feels like the deck is, just to make sure that exploration is fully there.
Okay.
Rather than writing it off, because I want to make this deck for a reason. Either the commander is drawing me in, or some concept of the commander is itching my brain.
Yeah.
And if it just feels weird, I don't want to just be like, okay, well, this thing just isn't going to work.
Sure.
I need to throw staples at this thing, like powerful cards at this thing to make it work. Could it be this other lane of, okay, am I going to build the mana different, or am I going to build the draw different if I have it available?
Yeah.
To try to feel through it. So I'm going to talk about the same legend
twice over.
Okay. How I approach, I think, these two different directions. My hope is that the deck's texture is different from the ground up. It's not, oh, well, instead of a couple different cards, we swap it around, because I don't think that'll work for anybody who wants to try this change.
Okay.
And what I mean is, if listener has a deck where it is a lot of mana rocks and a lot of non-board game presence, and it depends on your meta. Like Cameron was kind of asking me, he's like, well, what metas does this really work in? I'm finding that I can start lowering life totals pretty early because I have a creature board presence before, say, you or Zach, right? Like you just can't rally a defense against me. And I'm not sure if I can track it out and see if it matters. I don't know if taking you down by 6 life over the for phases of the game matters. I don't know.
Sure.
But if Zach dies before I do, do the life loss, it might have mattered. You know, it might read target creature does this, whatever it is, because it's not a vanilla creature. Target player loses 6 life.
Yeah.
You know, like you could start thinking about it that way of over time, I'm just whittling down a little bit. Eventually you develop a blocker because you're ramping towards that outcome. I have to stop. And then my hope is that this creature provides value in some other way after that. Right. So if someone is kind of thinking about why would I do this? I would maybe I can sell it this way, right? This is how the 2 ways I think I would go about it. Maybe you don't really change a lot with your deck and you just kind of adopt some of what I'm doing here. I don't know. Right. I don't know. This is a 3-hour-old idea. We'll see how it goes. Doing this on a podcast.
And I think you are wise to kind of set up when we're talking about mana, like there's as many opinions as there are assholes on the internet, right? Like about how to manage your mana production in your deck. And so I think it's right to kind of couch that as like, let the context matter to you, right? Because, you know, like I think you and I both have this contemplation in the context of our play group because, like I'll bring up a game that I recently had. So like my Calyx deck, most of my ramp is
enchantments,
the 1 and 2 mana enchantments.
Yeah. Synergy.
And because totally Calyx can clone them pretty quickly, I can have 2 lands enchanted at producing double mana while people are still putting down their signets. And I have an attacker, right? So the last time I played, I was so in front of all of you, so fucking fast.
Yeah.
Cool. But also by the same token, it brought a lot of attention to me because I broke parity on like turn 3.
Yeah.
You know,
you were way up there.
I was ahead of everyone pretty quickly. So there's like a lot of considerations to go with this. Like how quickly do you want to do those things? This is why I think, you know, there's some of the really fast mana are game changers or just banned, you know, from this format because
they're crazy.
It changes things significantly how the texture of your game goes.
Yeah, they're crazy when they're crazy. But down where you and I play, which is basically like we follow, you know, the constructive rules of bracket 2, not the vibe of bracket 2. Flexibility is just too valuable.
Yeah.
So there are mana rocks that they do more than just produce mana.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about those. Like if you're coming in here thinking I'm going to give some kind of conversation about Honored Heirloom, it's like, well, to me, it's removal that produces mana if you want it to, right? Like it can nuke a card from a yard. That is extremely valuable at my table. And it can produce mana. That's a lot of savings.
I've been talking lately about the Warring Triad because I think something that has the potential to turn into a 5/5 flyer and helps mill in strategies that want to put stuff in your yard.
Let's do it.
It's a pretty cool fucking, so it's not stuff like that that we're trying to impugn.
Or what you're saying, which is these enchantments, like that is synergy that you can take to the bank. Like you making more and more enchantments has a backfeed into, okay, well then your Ancestral Mask is crazy. And then you're crazy. What is it? That pillow fort that sees how many enchantments you have. Like you have that synergy later. And there are ways to get synergy for talismans and signets.
Sure.
It's usually like artifact count or non-creature spell being cast or something. Like if that exists in your deck, then keep it. Like you're getting a lot from that one card then. But what I'm trying to lay out here with this deck that I'm talking about, there is no artifact synergy.
Sure.
But there is synergy with having mana. Like that's just the game. So it's just how I want to go about it. So I'm actually going to try to say, make a case for both directions.
Yeah.
It's just that the whole deck has to look different, I think, to support either direction.
Okay.
So to repeat, one deck will not have a lot of early ramp. It just won't have a lot of the signets, the talismans, the 2 to 3 range. It will not be looking at that. It will rather have more mana, just straight up land count.
Yeah.
And a higher density of MDFCs, because if you're going up in land count, then you can kind of afford to have some of them come in tapped, or you can play around them easier. If you have 3 lands in hand, one of which could be a removal spell like Witch Enchanter, you're not going to miss your land drop too soon or have to eat that 3 life. You know, like the odds are better the more land you have that you can play around the MDFCs.
Yes.
But then there's occasions where you're like, I guess I just got to
use it.
So it's more thinking about game to game, right? Like what am I getting when I play this other way? And what am I getting when I play the more traditional way.
Yeah.
Which one do you want to start with?
Let's
The traditional.
I want to start with the traditional
Okay.
is what I'm thinking.
So this is a deck you are familiar with. You have secondhand experience with it.
I've played
I have
against it.
firsthand experience. This is my Bruna mono white reanimator thing that I do. It's Bruna the Fading Light. It's 7 mana, 5 white for a 5/7 legendary creature angel horror. When you cast this spell, you may return target angel or human creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It has flying and vigilance, and it has melds with Gisela the Broken Blade. Do you want me to like even go there now, or should I wait on that?
Well, I mean, we can talk about your strategy when you're ready about like the two of these trying to meld. But.
Let's just get to it now, because they're right next to each other. So Gisela the Broken Blade, who is not in the command zone, she is in the 99 of the deck. Is 4 mana for a 4/3 angel horror. She has flying. She has first strike. She has lifelink. And at the beginning of your end step, if you both own and control Gisela and a creature named Bruna the Fading Light, exile them, then meld them into Brizella Voice of Nightmares, which is just one hell of a fucking event. Like, it is so metal doing this.
Yeah.
It is so goddamn metal. I love it. They turn into Brizella Voice of Nightmares, which is a 9/10 flying first strike, vigilance, lifelink, Eldrazi angel. Your opponents can't cast spells with mana value 3 or less. This is, if you pull this off, it's crazy. I will say right now, for both of these lists, I am not set up to tutor Gisela. If you're a listener who gets interested in what I'm doing and you're like, yeah, I actually like this idea.
Yeah.
You would have a different deck than me. It is not focused on pulling this off. It's really focused on, for this list specifically, just Bruna.
Sure.
I have a reanimation spell in the command zone. It's a bit weird. It's not an ETB, so flickering Bruna doesn't do us anything. She wouldn't pull, and she doesn't act like a karmic guide, for better or for worse.
Mm-hmm.
But what's nice about it is if she doesn't make it to the battlefield from the command zone, like if some blue player tries to intervene, it's on cast. So she does it. So it's actually kind of hard to get around.
Making this stop is difficult.
A little bit, but so she's less abusable for what white could do.
Yeah.
It kind of sucks, but I don't know, you know? So it wouldn't surprise you to hear that like this deck has a lot of ramp in it because she's 7 mana. But hold on, like when we think about that Lysa deck that we talked about in the last episode, what does ramping her out do? She only really makes sense, at least to me, for her mana if you have an angel or I guess a human in the graveyard. So how did it get there if you were humping mana rocks with your horny ass dick? Like, how did it get there? It just probably wouldn't.
Yeah.
If that's all you're
this
doing.
isn't I need to be present on the battlefield to make my impact. It's my presence matters after some kind of event that's happened.
Yeah. So I'll put that out there right now of like, okay, then why would I ramp to her? Well, for this deck, the prime reanimator targets are angels. So they want the mana rocks.
Okay.
So my aim usually with this deck is to ramp, get an angel in play, force my opponents to deal with it. If they don't exile it, then it goes to graveyard, and then they got to deal with it one more time, possibly more.
Yeah.
With Bruna just rubber banding them back out. Then she's worth it. She's a 5/7 flyer plus whatever this other angel is doing.
Yeah.
And those two combined are a pretty hot.
And I might add, a big-bodied flyer with vigilance is a fucking problem.
She's a great blocker. Yeah, 7 seems to be a good number to like really stop people.
Yeah.
So I have never. So far, the way my meta works, I haven't been pushed to just get her out to block. That has not happened yet. Usually because I have another angel that has similar characteristics.
Right.
But I'm not usually getting pushed to do that. Part of this deck is the mana, though, right? To deal with these very expensive angel targets that I want to try to hammer out, get them to field, and get rolling with this idea. So there is 15 ramp in this deck.
Wild.
And 38 land. So not a huge gap between, but this is a very mana intense.
And
deck.
we should note that there's additional MDFCs beyond the 38 lands, right?
I think it's
It's showing 44 with your MDFCs.
Okay, yeah. So it's 44 lands. Wait, which one are you looking at? Are you looking at the?
Oh no, I'm looking at your other one.
Yeah, that's the other one. That's mostly
my
lands.
bad.
Yeah,
my bad.
No, you're
I'm looking at the wrong one.
It's 38. It's 38 lands and 15 ramp. The ramp is mostly like.
Yes. Okay, I'm seeing that.
It's mostly kind of techie. So even here, I'm not really going for signets, but you could swap them out. I think the signets are just faster. They're easy to resolve, kind of back to back.
Okay.
But I kind of went for more of, the 3 mana stuff. But yeah, there's Knight of the White Orchid, Giada, obviously, because she's an angel ramper. But then, the Starnheim Aspirant, she reduces angels by 2 because they're the stars of the show, right?
Yes.
I can get maybe 2 at a time down. It's an Urza's incubator that can be reanimated with my commander if I need to.
Ooh, good point.
Seasoned Dungeoneer is a human that could reanimate, right? She grabs the initiative, which I count that as ramp because it's tutoring a land.
Sure.
Is always
You're keeping yourself on curve.
Yeah, grabbing a land is always the first room of the Undercity.
Yeah.
So it's looking to do stuff like this where the ramp is coming down later in the game, even in the grand scheme of things. It's supported by lands a little bit with 38. So I'm likely to start with 3 to 4 in my opening hand, and I kind of curve into the ramp and then jump up and land an angel. That's the idea of how I do this.
Which, can we hold on the fact here that I don't know if people think about this that often, but one of the problems with being open with those early ramp plays with some decks, especially if you're playing a strategy like Angels that are high at the high end of the curve, is you're quite open, but you're using a lot of bodied ramp here, right? Like the Knight of the White Orchid or the Seasoned Dungeoneer, which you can block with and not worry about too much, right?
Yeah.
Because of what your commander does. Like that to me feels like an important distinction here.
Yeah. Just talking about some techie ramp decisions. We'll go through some.
Yeah.
So Archaeomancer's map's pretty neat because it can force you into a discard. If you get the right kind of play of the land, you grab the 2 planes. If you choose not to push them, then you can ditch an angel, and now you're on target to get a better Bruna play.
Yeah.
If you're feeling like, I just want to go for it and get both of them down at the same time. The same is true for the Restoration of Iganjo. It's probably one of my favorite white cards. It's very good. I mean,
it's pretty solid.
Hang on, is it my favorite white card?
You're like, wait a minute.
It's between this and Duelist Heritage. I really like this card. Kyle. So it's 2 and a white. It's a saga. Its first chapter is you may search your library for a basic plains card, reveal it, and put it to your hand, then shuffle. This is where it matters for this deck. At chapter 2, you can discard a card. If you do, return target permanent card with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. You could ditch the land and just bring it in tapped.
Sure.
So it can act like a mono white double land play, but one of them is tapped. But the piece I care about is I can ditch an angel.
Yeah.
It's not so much about getting that full thing.
Yeah.
Know? And then, I don't know, its third act is it turns into this weird fox that makes spirits that don't fly. But it's those first 2 elements. This is a great card. It makes a Skull Clamp farm with this other fox guy.
Yeah.
It's Sun Titan compliant. It can cheat things into play. It can recur 1 to 2 mana permanents that people have dealt with, your fucking Shadow Spear or your whatever. Like it is a really great card.
And a 3/4 vigilance is pretty hot.
It's up there, man. Yeah. It's up there. In my Zur deck, that's a Death Touch hexproof lifelink version of this vigilant creature. So
yeah, because it is an enchantment. Still.
It is an enchantment still. Yeah. So I love this card. Right. Yeah. Like there's a version of this in your Calyx deck where you're like, well, I'll ditch the enchantment that comes in tap attached to a land. I don't really care, but I get that for free.
It's true.
It comes in, auto attaches, then eventually it turns into this. I mean, you could clone this thing with him too.
Yeah,
right?
I can clone it either side of it, right?
Either
it's
side
like,
of it.
Okay, I'm cloning the saga.
Do you see how fucking good this card
it's pretty
is?
Good. I
love
probably
this
need
card.
to go at it, to be honest.
Yeah, and it's like $1,
Yeah.
The other techie piece of ramp, and I got into this like weird conversation with people we have a channel in our Discord. It's just called Single Card Chat or something like that, where the only focus of this channel is just to talk about single cards. People will come in there and just drop in a card, and people give their opinion.
Yeah, get some. And
combo. A lot of the time, people just get really hot and horny, and they go, "Oh, that's so cool! I'm going to go do this." But I brought up this idea to this.
That's what I do when I'm in the mood.
Is look at
go
the
to
single.
That channel.
It's a way good channel to just like look through cards.
Yeah,
because people are good at referencing just even new stuff. I mean, not so much new stuff, but like, but I went in there and I was like, hey, what do we think about with Sculpting Steel being a ramp card? So everything that I've described about just Commander gameplay would suggest that a lot of people are very likely to produce signets in the early phases of the game.
True.
Right? And yes, this would make for a weaker... By the way, it's 3 mana. You may have Sculpting Steel enter the battlefield as a copy of any artifact on the battlefield.
Yeah.
I'm all about like the basement or the ceiling of this thing, right? Especially with the type of gameplay that you and I are involved in. As you move closer to the higher brackets, less is important. Flexibility is just less important. You're running into very specific things more often, right? More free spells. So like, how can we think about cards that specifically target free spells? More 1 mana spells, more of the same combo. And as you land kind of at the higher bracket from all of the stuff that I've ingested on YouTube, it's a pretty short list of decks that exist. Like, there's the Crom and Timna and Timna and Timna and Timna and Timna. And all like it's all kind of like starting to look like more of a laboratory where everyone is, you know what I mean? Like
the format's a little bit of a black hole. Like there's an event horizon that everybody's getting pulled into. Right?
Because it's
as far as I can tell,
because it's its own meta. I think is what I'll say. It's a bigger, grander meta. Our meta is such that I don't know how to really get my arms around it. There's a lot of decks at our table. Collectively, we have 7 people who play here and an 8th who can play when he produces offspring, apparently. And what do we count? Like there was over 70 decks here between everybody, right?
Yeah.
Everyone has at least 10, and there's 7 of us.
When we did the rankings with everybody,
it took us forever.
It was like
dude.
80 some odd decks at that point.
Yeah.
We've gone through a change since then. But
so we used, like I was saying earlier, we use the bracket 2 deck building rules. We don't think about the vibe. Like I'm not really interested in that because
it's hard to enforce.
It's hard. Well, we just don't want to. We're just like, just follow the card rules. We'll be okay for the rest. Yeah. At least we can.
And the group can adapt.
And the group can figure that out.
Yeah.
We're not. Our expectation is we've played with each other so much. We just don't have that kind of going on. People tend to do something that they like doing all the time. Kyle really likes enchantments. Kyle likes pressure. Kyle likes discard. Like these are things that I'm just kind of. They're probably going to happen.
Yeah.
Brad kind of really likes Mana Geyser.
Or other big mana
We call
plays.
it Brad's mana die. Like he just reaches, when somebody else has a big mana play, they're like, hey, I need Brad's mana die. And you reach for the mana die and count it up. Like he just tends towards this in different ways.
Yeah.
Tiff really likes, green, like she likes green. She really likes green.
Yeah. Green stuff's happening.
Right. Zach likes all of the most powerful cards from Lord of the Rings in every one of his decks. That's his thing. And it turns out there's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them.
And they're fucking annoying.
And there's ones that have like some kind of like Lord of the Rings name.
Yeah,
you didn't even know
and Chris,
got a Lord of the Rings
and Chris,
treatment.
It's some spiky haired, I don't know, androgyno from some Final Fantasy game. And all those powerful cards too. And Buster Sword. So we kind of do what we're, but generally speaking, it seems to be better to have flexibility, right?
Yeah.
Charms are valued higher in our meta because it's like you never know from game to game. Like, is this going to be the Charmed Exiles target enchantment for Kyle, or is it going to be this just nukes a graveyard for Cameron? I want both if I can get them in the same.
Yeah,
thing.
It's like instead of running. We shit talk like Generous Gift and Beast Within, but the reality is that like, well,
they're very good around here.
I can take out my, enchant and artifact hate and my creature removal and just put a Beast Within and replace the other card with card draw.
Something else. Yeah. Or if you're in Selesnya or Naya, all 3 of those cards.
Yes.
So flexibility, I think, is valued game over game. It never really has that like, wow, man, this is the right card, and it almost always is.
Yeah.
For when we're talking about certain things, because we're not in that other meta up there. That
True.
meta is like, hey, I'm very likely to run into this I'm gonna hit Fierce Guardianships. I'm gonna see Deflecting Swats. Like, what are the cards that camp those?
Yeah.
Where down here, like those cards are absent, and 2, like there's a lot of decks. There's a tendency that everybody follows, but there's a lot of decks. There's 70 different decks in our meta. Not all of them get played. Some, like over the course of the year, we might not even see all of them, but
There's a lot to think about.
Anyway, sculpting steel for me is a pretty good way of like, its worst case, it's probably a mana rock. For myself, I can clone my own stuff. Like if I already have my stone speaker crystal, I'm paying 3 to get a second stone speaker crystal or a second Thran dynamo.
Yeah.
So that basement, and I have 15 ways to ramp. How much of this is artifact, I don't know. Or a second Archaeomancer's map. I'm okay with it because of how my deck is built. But on the outside, if I see that goddamn Buster Sword again, I have one. You know?
True.
If I see somebody's sort of cloud and or blinking lands, I'm gonna get that too. So it has a higher ceiling than just typically a Signet, I guess.
What were people's takes on it in the Discord talking about that? Because I see people run sculpting still almost as like
an artifact deck.
But I mean, I see them almost running it exclusively as ramp in non-green decks. Like some people just always are slotting it in.
Really?
I've noticed some people are using it all the time.
Well, that's good then, because that's what I'm advocating for. Where I've used it before, being completely out there, it was in artifact decks like Daretti or something.
Yeah, which makes sense.
I want to copy a Portal to Phyrexia ×2.
Yeah, that's
where
a great
I'm thinking
play.
more about the ceiling and my own capacity to deliver on that ceiling. Yeah. Where here it's more. Yeah, I mean the ceiling here would be like a copy of Gilded Lotus. That would be like, okay, I have a 3 mana Gilded Lotus. This is really good.
Nice.
It's basically for free.
Yeah.
Is my ceiling for myself where, I mean, there's a version of a game where I copy, I don't know, like.
You're right. People do have a Portal of Phyrexia like in our group. Like those get played.
Yeah, or your Great Henge that you love so much, you know, like.
It's not in as many decks as it used to be. But Zach has a Lord of the Rings one.
But you can see what I'm doing. Like I'm playing the meta.
Yes.
Right. This is the LCP equivalent of I don't know, name mental misstep. Not even. But you get it.
Yeah.
It's just techie stuff. White Auracite, it ETBs. It can exile a permanent until it leaves. Like it serves 2 purposes. It's 4 mana to do that, but.
I love this kind of white removal, by the way. I'm like way more into it.
It's
the last
pretty good
year
because
than
it
I used
draws
to be.
removal out of somebody's hand if they really want it.
Yes.
And you can kind of pick and choose. Like, is this really worth them draining my thing?
I fucking
Angel
love
of the Ruins. Me and Brad are kind of on the camp that this goes in every white deck almost. It's 7 mana for a 5/7 artifact creature angel. When it ETBs, it exiles up to 2 artifact and or enchantments. Exiles. Goodbye.
And this one's like expensive enough that it's not until it leaves. They're just gone.
They're just fucking gone. Yeah.
You paid for it.
They're
gone.
in that burning car and you're waking up in cold sweats.
You have too many.
You have too many artifacts and enchantments. Yeah. Dude, that shit was bone chilling. But the reason it's here is that it has plane cycling too. You can discard it, go grab a planes. If you're in a multicolored deck, dear listener, you can get your shock, you can get your turbulent whatever. I mean, hell, you could even get your triome.
Tell me about discipline around, because you're someone who's long been into cycling and like land cycling type stuff like this. Tell me about like the philosophy or discipline around that, because I think for a lot of players, it's really hard to let go of the idea of casting an Angel of the Ruins. As opposed to, well, this is a point in the game I need to just, let me go get that planes.
Yeah.
Or, I think the same thing could be said of the MDFCs, right? Where it's like, well,
90%.
I really want to hold this so I can exile a graveyard by playing the creature rather than getting the land. So tell me your philosophy or discipline.
This is a good topic to bring up because we're going to be diving into these pretty hard. Like these alternative costs that are like one's sexy and one isn't.
Yeah.
Let's just quickly say that because this is an angel, you see why it's here.
Right. You can get it. Which makes that decision easier.
Yeah. So I think these type of cards, that's why this one's in this deck and it's in the other one. It's one of the things that they share. Yeah. Because it just directly speaks to the commander. You get 14 toughness on board between the 2 of them, both flying, 10 damage and 14 toughness. So I think this is where a higher land count actually helps you, because if you've got 3 lands and an Angel of the Ruins and then you miss your next drop, you can kind of make a bet. You're like, am I going to miss my next one, or am I going to just go make sure it happens? So it's fun to try to do that for myself. I have a good volume of island cycling, plane cycling. the Lord of the Ring ones that cost 1 are very, very valuable to me.
Yeah.
Right.
I notice you use those often.
I use them often because they're able to fix up to colors, right? You can get your shock or whatever.
Yeah.
It's one of the only ways that's allowed in our meta to search for non-basics is
sure.
You can only get the ones that just produce a specific mana. They don't have anything like techie to them. Like
you can't go get your Cabal coffers.
You can't get your Cabal coffers. But you can get stuff like this where it's like, it's a shock or whatever. And it's a budget way to do it. These are fetch lands essentially if they have those words.
Yeah.
So it's good tech for somebody like Zach and Chris who they're early on, and Zach wants to spend his money on not that stuff. So he can use this to try to get around it a little bit. Here, yes, you have the synergy. When we're talking about MDFCs, too many of them and they come in tapped. There are the ones that the Modern Horizons crazy ones that they gave us, which they eat three of your life.
Yeah.
But again, the more lands you have, you can delay or kind of play around that. Brad tends to not do that. Brad just plays them the minute he draws them is his philosophy.
I like that philosophy.
He'll just play them as lands.
For some people.
Yeah. He basically says, I only use those cards when I'm like in the shit. If I'm not in like the shit with anybody, I don't know what that means, Brad, but whatever. He'll just play them as lands. I don't, because I run a higher land count than him. He's not at my land altitude. His philosophy is not to do that. He likes to ramp his shit into play quicker than I do.
Okay.
So I kind of play around it and I'll hold them longer. I mean, the last time I played, I was going to die. Cameron had thrown 19 2/2 zombies at me. I blocked as many as I could. And then he said, okay, so one of the unblocked zombies I'm hitting with hatred and I'm paying.
Oh my God.
He wanted me off this fucking game, dude. He basically set himself to like 10 life to
using a fucking token on
to try to ice me with a zombie token.
Vessel.
And I'm like, well, it's a good thing I have this sink into stupor, isn't it? And I bounced the token.
Oh my God.
And he's like, yeah.
He just paid life for nothing.
So, yeah. And I ended up taking that game. But
that's funny.
It's a good card. I mean, it's the reason why it's like a $6 or $7 land, essentially. Yeah. So, to say something about discipline, it's easy to be less disciplined with them. And by disciplined, I mean like play them for the sake of getting the unsexy side, which is the land.
The land, yeah.
If you have more lands, because you're able to kind of maneuver around it. Less lands you have, dear listener, if you took your 35 and tore it even further and added these, these are free whatever.
Yeah, it's a land slot that does this thing. I don't know. Can stay low.
They're harder to use, and you might kind of get annoyed at them because of that. Or you might only use the mythic level ones, the ones that always come in untapped, like that kind of stuff. Like
I really like that as a point of I want to hold on to that in my considerations of deck building around them. Of like the more lands you have, because it is really tempting to be like, I'm going to run really lean, 36 lands, and a bunch of them are MDFCs. But then you find you probably have to use them as lands.
Recovery will drive you crazy.
Yeah.
But if you have a lot of lands where you're like, I have 3 in play. Okay, I can hold off. And eventually you just kind of hit your thing and you're okay because you have enough lands and you don't need to use them.
Yeah. So
but there will be games where you're like, I'm just going to play
one of the ones, it's a tough challenge, right? Because one of the ones that I really like is the one that...
There's so many good ones.
Well,
dude.
there's the one that counts
crazy.
up the enchants and lands and gives +1/+1 or creatures rather.
It does both.
+1/+1 for each.
It's crazy.
And so it's like, do you really want to pass up something that could ace a person later in the game to just get the land? It's like, well, you probably should.
Yeah,
you probably should if you need to develop land.
But if you have land counts higher,
a higher land count, you can rely on getting lands, and you can hold on to it a little bit longer.
Right.
Which I really like that as a guiding point.
So it helps a little, but that's, and then there's the whole idea about bounce lands. You can pull them back. Like you can use them the first go around, and then later on you pull a bounce land and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to pull this thing that ain't a land back to my hand where it's now a spell again. So I have that, what is it? Like stomp back in my hand kind of sitch. I don't know. You could push this pretty far if you really had the appetite to do it.
True.
I don't tend to love bounce lands unless I have ways to...
I've stopped using them.
Yeah, they're not bad. They're okay.
They're okay, but I've stopped.
I think if you just have a higher land count, also those are not as bad because you're like, I can wait on this.
Yeah, you can time it correctly.
Because by now you've gotten so many land drops. You're like, well, I can't even capitalize on everything that I have for this turn. I'll no matter what I do, I'll only have 1 mana left over. So here's my moment.
True.
And let it be these things that I've MDFC'd into play as a land, I guess.
Yeah.
Man, okay. This has got heady.
Well, I thought that was a question worth exploring though, because it's just, it's one thing to say they're here, but like people play them differently,
Yeah. When they first showed up in BFZ, right? Battle for Zendikar, I was like, oh, cool. Free removal, free recovery, free stuff. So I was cutting lands and putting them in.
Yeah.
That's what I was doing. And I did that for a long time. Lately, I've been like, oh, look, it's a free land that's also removal.
Yeah.
Is there a removal piece I can get rid of? So like Fell the Profane, it's like, I guess you could run that sorcery that destroys an enchantment or an artifact or a creature and you lose life equal. I don't know what your meta looks like. Or you can just kind of hedge your bet a little bit.
Yeah.
And keep the instant version of it, but then drop that and put this in. And it's like, it's also a land, I actually went back and bought a bunch of Hagra Maulings, and that's the one that comes in tapped.
Sure.
I don't know if you remember that game that we played where I had the demon down, Abyssal Persecutor.
Yeah.
Everyone was in the negative except for me.
We couldn't lose because of the demon, but we were all negative.
Yeah, so I couldn't win. The demon's out there, and we were going around the table. It worked out great because Zach was so far ahead of you guys that you're like, well, we can't let him get away because if Andy dies, Zach just wins because we're all in the negative life totals, So you guys all hammered Zach he was barely under, but you got him there.
Because we were all cheering for the draw, which I think is how that would work.
Yeah.
But.
So if you can get rid of me, I think I would. Yeah. So, but we got to my turn and I Hagra Maulinged my own demon, so it was
great.
an MDFC.
Right. That did it.
That finally let me out from this stupid mess that I had created with this demon. Gotta fucking love that demon. But, I don't know. Just different instances where an MDSC saved my life once and another one where I had to kill one of my own creatures, but it got me there.
But you got you there.
But then there's plenty of other mundane stories of like, I just hit my land drop and I had a good game.
Yeah, which is hard to account for, right? Because that's a good
I had to lose some
story.
life, but like it could have gone the other way. So game over game, I value these cards.
It is hard to account for. It's not sexy to account for playing them as lands, but yeah. Or using the fucking angel to go get a plains.
So if you want to try these out, specifically the cycling ones, I have ones that I like. This one I definitely like a lot, the Angel of Ruins, because late game it's a hell of a blocker. It's a hell of a flicker target. It's a hell of a clone target.
Yeah.
It's an artifact. It's a lot of stuff. So if you're thinking about your deck, dear listener, maybe consider this one. Don't cut a land for it, I don't think. Because you're crazy, but it is a good way to go get
this
one.
This might be one I should put in my flicker deck,
Seasoned Dungeoneer is in here too, because it is a human. It's a 3/4 warrior for 4. When the Seasoned Dungeoneer enters the battlefield, you take the initiative. So I view this as ramp if you haven't hit your drop that turn, but it also assures your next drop. The first room of the initiative is you get the land. Some people don't want to mess with this dungeon. The way we manage dungeon, we had to get used to it because Cameron just loved Sephiroth too much.
That's right.
So really what we've done is the person who brings it to the table must manage it for everybody. Essentially, we get the token that represents the Undercity. We get a dice for each person who manages to get it. So for me, I will be the white die here, right? Because I'm the white deck.
Yeah, we have like different
and
colors.
I place that die, that 6-sided die, in the room that I'm in. And then we have another token that just represents it in the initiative.
Yeah, who holds it?
Like you would the Monarch. So when I'm hit, I don't get another dungeon for Kyle. I go, okay, well, Kyle, you're playing a green deck. You are now here. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
It's my problem.
You introduced it.
So you're like, oh, well, I'm here. And I just kind of read it. It works okay. The initiative gets passed around like the Monarch, but the dungeon sits on the person who brought it in.
We found a way to like make it manageable with this group, which I think
there's just too much stuff going on. So we just do it. Whenever you attack, target attacking cleric, rogue, warrior, or wizard gains protection from creatures until end of turn. It explores. So fucking exploring. Reveal the top card of your library. Put that card into your hand if it's a land. Otherwise, put a +1/+1 counter on the creature. Then put that card back or into your graveyard. I value this because it starts filtering through. But if it's an angel and I'm kind of on target to reanimate, I can just ditch it.
Yeah.
Put the counter on this chick who is almost always unblockable because she herself is a warrior. She's great. If you already have a cleric or already have a wizard or whatever, this is a really good card. It's probably why it's $8.
Yeah.
This is a great card.
Yeah, I mean,
card.
like some of
And
those types like show up in places
too, so
that
how
you
do
don't
you feel about that. I don't know.
Oof. Don't tell me.
Mm-hmm. It's a good card. Yeah. Kind of ramps me into what I want to do and helps feed my yard. Let's talk about this other piece. So as I'm ramping up, I'm doing my thing. I'm unprotected like a good chunk of this game. So what I have found as I've played this deck is that, yeah, people, they kind of know, like they can see who's in my command zone and they'll be like, well, I can't get past that pretty soon. Like it's a stiff blocker.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is just the worry about the Gisela merge thing, which I probably should talk about at some point before we close this episode out. But I don't know I'm trying to cover a lot here. The deck has a high number of board wipes in it.
Sure.
I don't have anything to lose. I don't have any creatures on the field.
Which is a good strategy for people that have things that develop later, right? Like this is a skill that I've picked up from you of, if your deck is later developing, have a higher count of board wipes so you can clear it.
Yeah. I think I read somewhere in our Discord, somebody really didn't like this concept of ramping up and then boarding, right? Like you ramp like crazy and then you board wipe to just peel everybody out who's had an early game. And I can see why that would be really annoying because like you're punishing these aggro decks that are trying to get their feet underneath them. I just,
there's no fucking downside though.
Defend yourself. Like I there's a lot of step dodges in this game now. There's a lot.
So many.
There's so many ways to backflip out of a board wipe. Notice here that a lot
candidly, if you're an aggro person, that is a game flipping action.
It really is because now there's no blockers. So you got to play to the strengths of your deck. And for me, because so much of my deck is trying to hammer out these high mana value creatures and the artifacts to support them, it just doesn't make sense for me just to let you beat me to death. So I'm kind of not going to let it happen. Yeah. And it's a reanimation deck. So like, even if
you catch anything,
I'm going to walk away probably okay, clearing my own board a little bit. So the focus here is, there's quite a bit. I have got 7 wipes in the deck and most of them don't let you step dodge out. They're edict style, which is kind of a weird thing for white these days because white can kind of make them one-sided. It can do the whole like flawless maneuver, whatever. But like my commander's not present for those types of moves. And I don't know, like, and I really dislike heroic intervention. So
yeah, I mean, like by invitation only and promise of loyalty are 2 really hot
and Eternal
board wipes these days.
Yeah, like the Eternal Wanderer is my girl.
Yeah,
dude.
the second best planeswalker.
The first best planeswalker. The other side of this is reanimation. It's not just Bruna. So by my count, I have 13 ways to reanimate targets out of my graveyard.
Yeah.
Plus her. So 14.
Which we as a group have learned it's not just the commander.
It's not just the commander.
He's got other options in hand. It's not over yet.
Yeah. So some of them are both, like a mana rock and Hour of the Lost. So I get kind of like a mana situation and a reanimation one time.
Yeah.
What Must Be Done, which is a board wipe and a way to reanimate because a lot of these angels are named historic creatures. So they get to come back. Emeria Shepherd, Dawnbreak Reclaimer, Angel of Indemnity, Karmic Guide, like they're angels that you can kind of get a little bit of a train going. You know what I mean? Like out of your graveyard with Bruna. So it's a tough deck.
Yeah.
It can take a beating. The draw, there's some special attention here to draw and discard. That's kind of the namesake of the deck. It's Bruna's Eldritch Disco is what I named it. But there's the disco piece. Matt Litzanti, The Great Door, Deal Breaker, Key to the City, Collector's Vault, even Chivalric Alliance is a discard outlet if you care.
Yeah.
You can make a knight. It's coming clutch. I've needed a blocker and have ditched something to do it.
Yeah.
And then you use the knight to attack with your angel to draw your card. It's pretty good. Gryreach Sanitarium, which is a land that does it. Really awesome. Discard is pretty strong. So 6 of the slots are just set up to right before my turn begins or as I'm going to cast, but before I cast her, I'm going to hurry up and draw and discard. So you guys need to have instant speed graveyard hate.
Yeah.
To get this thing from being cheated in. You know what I mean? Plus 10 other draw. So that's 16 total between those two. One is kind of draw discard. I don't know if you would count that, but for this, in this case, it still is. For this, right? It works. I don't have, what is it? Trouble in Paris. I don't have it here. I have it in a deck where it synergizes better, but it probably should be.
You could do Mangara, who's a human.
Yeah, I could do Mangara. Probably should do Mangara. The angel targets, those are probably not surprising to hear, right? There's Saphara, the Sky's Blade. Now Bruna's indestructible, and all of her other sisters are too. And she's a 7/7 lifelink. Sarah's Emissary is fucking insane. 9 times out of 10, you should just name creature. You are protected from creatures. Your creatures are protected from creatures. They can attack. They can't block. They can attack you. You can't be damaged. It's wild. It's a wild spell. Brad introduced us to that when it first came out.
And then when I put it in a deck, he then promptly stole it.
He stole it?
Yeah, so
he like reanimated it out of your thing?
No, he had something that I don't remember the exact details of the game. He was playing his Lord of Pain deck.
And he stole it.
And he had been
so now Lord of Pain can't hit him on his turn.
Yeah, you were ahead, and so he was kind of hinting that he had to wait it because your commander was like the problem.
Here we go. This is classic Brad.
He was hinting that he had a way to deal with it, but something else unbuttoned you.
And
I kind of forgot about that hint. And so I played the Sarah's Emissary.
And he jacked it.
And he took it. I forget which card he used.
This is it. This is what you sign up for. Like somebody can clone these targets. They can do all of that.
Yeah.
Akruma, Angel of Wrath, is just, she's so fucking good because she's haste. Pro black, pro red, first strike, vigilance, trample.
I've always had a hard time with her.
It's almost like she's holding her own sword, dude.
I always wanted her to be a little bigger. I mean, I know she's got a lot of fucking keywords.
She's so fucking good, dude. Like you can just beat on somebody's ass and they can't really come back. His Lord of Pain can fuck off with her,
it's
dude.
True.
Like, it's true.
What can you do, Lord of Pain?
Yeah, if she's the only creature I control, I guess you can menace around it, but she's so good. She's
coming, dude.
Avacyn, obviously. I actually didn't own an Avacyn and I played this deck out of my collection. I just built it one day.
True, that's right.
This is working pretty good.
She's like, I might want to invest.
And then I bought this because I was like, I never had a need for such a creature in any of my decks. I just didn't have one. And now I'm like, okay, well, this is just a really good thing to reanimate. Silverblade Paladin is a human that will give your crazy nightmare creature double strike. So by herself, she'll do 10 with those two paired. That's got me some games won just because they can't rally a defense against the flyer.
True.
There have been games where I've gotten her merged and because it's a soul bond thing, it just works and it was a lot of damage. Angel of Jubilation's here because it tamps down on people's appetites to sacrifice permanents. Lyra, everything's lifelink. That's why I value with that.
You know what's interesting with Lyra is there was a point in time where Lyra was like $30-$40.
Really?
But like, I think it might, because it's the type of angel in standard, like a 5-mana angel that's flying first strike lifelink. Like that's a good bomb. And
tanked.
And then it got a reprint as well.
Nice.
So,
I don't remember. God, I'm self-conscious about how much I paid for mine.
Because I pulled one from a booster and I thought about selling it. This is one of those things where you're just like, why did I keep it? I should have sold it. But I like angels, so I kept it.
Yeah, it's weird that I'm the one with this deck. Like, Sigarda's Vanguard. This is a great card. I don't even know if there's a card the listener wants that's a finisher in their white deck. I think they could look at this one. So it's 4 and a white for a 3/3. It has flash and flying. Whenever Sigarda's Vanguard enters the battlefield or attacks, choose any number of creatures with different powers. Those creatures gain double strike until end of turn.
Mm.
So I have helped people kill each other with this, where you swung on somebody and I'm like, hey, let's give this many double strike because it's a flash card.
Yeah.
This thing is way cool. And then it's a Titan effect. So when it becomes my turn, I get to do it for myself too. So this is one hell of a card. Like Moonshaker Cavalry wouldn't make sense in a deck like this. I don't think you're going wide enough where this does. Like double strike on a few of these chicks is not okay.
It's a niche of the game that I think is underrated. Like we talked about it when we did our Bumbleflower episode, that, my philosophy was trying to help other people do combat. But even if it's not like you're directly encouraging people, just taking advantage of moments with a card like this, where it's like, oh, they got a,
dude, I honestly,
they've got a good hit through.
Like, thing.
Let's fucking amplify the damage that's happening here. So somebody being under 10 or dead when they weren't expecting to be is pretty hot for me.
Yeah. Just a good angel, like even outside of this context with this. Angel Finality nukes yards. That's a kind of a must around here.
Yeah.
There's another one that's actually probably one of the all-star players in the deck, and it's the Angel of Serenity. It's a lot of mana. It's 7 mana for a 5/6 angel with flying, of course. When Angel of Serenity enters the battlefield, you may exile up to 3 other target creatures from the battlefield and or creature cards from graveyards. When Angel of Serenity leaves the battlefield, return the exiled cards to their owner's hands. So
oldie but a goodie.
What's great about this is it hoses blockers, it hoses creatures that really shouldn't be there. When she leaves, they don't come back to field, they go back to hand, so they have to kind of recast their thing.
Yeah.
But what's also good about her is that she protects my own yard. There's been times where I can't chain out enough, and I will grab those angels and put them under her.
Yeah.
And now you guys are like, oh my God, because you don't want them back in my hand. So what I actually typically do with this is if this is in the yard, one of the targets will actually be Bruna because it goes to hand.
Gotcha.
And so if you ever deal with the Angel of Serenity, which I've gotten rid of 2 of yours,
right?
You remove her. Now Bruna's in my hand. I cast Bruna. We go right back to where we started. It's really fucking annoying.
Yeah.
Like mana provided, but that's why there's so much of it in this deck.
True story.
But this one's clutch. The fact that it hits it hates on yards. If someone has an appetite to reanimate and you kind of feel it, like your spidey sense is tingling.
Yeah.
Shouldn't even say that. Your
now that it's involved with magic,
version of spidey sense is tingling.
What was the name of spidey sense?
You can get stuff out of their yard, and then your own, or bounce your own stuff in a weird way. Like she's awesome. Yeah, this thing's way good.
I've long liked that card,
and it's a 5/6.
I had a play set of those back in the day because I
think it was what Ravnica.
It was Return to Ravnica was when it showed up. Yeah, like in that block or set.
So. A lot of cards here, but like really what we're aiming to do is, the early portion of the game will be hopefully a lot of these ramp that we're getting out, right? Turn 3. Yeah. Turn 3 to 4. And then we get an angel down. Maybe it's Lyra or something. Exile is obviously a problem. One could try to put sack outlets in this deck. I don't know. I've tried a couple different things. This deck is weak to other board wipes. It almost calls them into play. Like this is a totally like, hey, it's a good day for an airstrike, guys. Like let's do it. So haste might help, but man, every time I've tried to get haste into this deck, it just feels like it's getting in the way. I just feel like it's better to go for the long game. It's a marathon, not a sprint kind of feel with this deck. It just works okay. I think you're better off thinking of ways to disrupt your opponents with this deck more than try to just get their life totals lowered. Yeah. Let's talk about Gisela. So this is a deck I've struggled with. I don't know what to do with this deck because of something that I've been trying my best to avoid since we've kind of transitioned into like this kind of new wave meta that we've woken up into.
Sure.
I could probably say that our commander experience, if you go back to like our commander Stone Age, right? It was where we didn't know any better and we were playing basically anything that we could get our hands on that made sense for commander. At one point, there was a Derevi stacks deck in our meta, just to put things into perspective. Yeah. This is before we had a podcast. This is us just kind of learning what we did and didn't want to do. Yeah. Our experience before this was 1v1 standard, draft with you a little bit of modern. Yeah. It was just like kill each other, fucking die kind of thing. Yeah. Like that was our thing. And then just
find good cards that'll kill.
Yeah. And then I would say kind of like our commander renaissance, and probably for a lot of people, was around 2015, 2016. And the power level went up there, but we weren't doing things that were mana denial so much. That was kind of the thing that we like let go of. Like we didn't run stacksy stuff. We tried to stay off of that, but it was very tutor heavy. Mm-hmm. And then AP came to our meta in like 2017, 2016, 2017, around there. And he just brought a lot of strong cards into the game, and we had to kind of match it. So I would call that our arms race era.
And I would say the volume of it, right? Because we had some strong cards, but he picked up the pace and the volume of it.
Yeah, he was ready to like spend more on the game than we were, and we're like, okay, well, we need to keep up. So I'd probably call that like our Cold War, where the decks were getting more creative. We were getting new legends. The company's starting to give us more commanders and more product, for better or for worse. but as a meta, we really picked up.
Yeah.
I think the worst time in our meta's history was after he basically exited the game. He sold us his collection. We basically just ransacked all of his cards and we proliferated them across the people who had the appetite to buy it.
Yeah.
So the staple count was extremely high against with far less players.
Mm-hmm.
We were trying to get new players in and they just could not keep up to the best of our ability. And it was rough. What made it really, really rough was we started adopting this thing that we called the swap binder. So we had so many staples of the same card. We were like, why am I holding on to multiple copies of the same fucking card? I mean, I think at one point I had like maybe 3 to 4 demonic tutors. One is good enough for anybody, right?
Yeah.
This is just a grotesque part in our journey, but hey, it's the truth, right? By now we have a podcast. It's the bracket system doesn't really exist. Everybody's deck is a power 7. We don't know really what's going on. We don't know how to say Carador. We're kind of on our own island, but it's like a lab, man. Like,
yeah,
this was an outbreak. There was like a fucking outbreak for sure.
There really was.
The swap binder, I think, made the game really miserable because what it did was you could sell off all your copies of Demonic Tutor and then have it in a binder. And before you begin the game, you would swap in your Demonic Tutor from your other black deck. And as the game is over, you would make sure to peel those out. So they would sit in your binder. The deck has basically got like 4 to 5 empty sleeves in it, right? And so right before we set up to play, it was just kind of like setting up the game.
If people are being showing restraint, yes, but I think there were cases of some people having up to like 10 cards.
Yes.
That were like empty sleeves.
I think at one point I saw that Brad had done 12 swaps.
Yeah.
Like 12 to 14 swaps into one of his decks. And it was a money saving measure. It allowed those other people who weren't able to get, like they could move those. That was the idea.
Ones that they did have, they could move around.
Namely Chris, he was starting to get stronger cards. And we were like, okay, well then switch them between your decks, like that way all of your decks are up to speed with ours. But then we started doing it too. So it got real lame real fast.
And I will add that an adjacent problem that groups have to this, and I don't want to make any too strong of a commentary, but I will say people need to navigate this in their own way as a group, is proxies can have a similar problem for them.
It's just,
but
right.
Because this is basically a proxy problem.
It is a proxy problem
that we had to navigate ourselves.
Yeah. What it looked like is we'd come over on a Saturday and you'd see the same battery of cards. Yeah. Like the same,
good
it was like
cards.
It was like who's doing the Ashnod's Altar combo with their fucking deck, Like it's a mono white deck even. It's like everyone's looking to combo off. Everybody's looking to free spell each other. It was bracket 4 like we did before we knew what bracket 4 was. And we're all doing it like crazy because we've sold off all of these duplicates and we've just funded it into other staples. So I'm trying to paint a picture for somebody how
and without
far
owning
up
that
the
it
power
was bracket
scale
4 type stuff.
We didn't know this, right?
Yeah.
But we're pretty up the power scale. Like it wasn't unheard of to watch multiple free counter spells come out of multiple hands in one stack interaction.
In response to a combo starting to go off.
Yeah. So
then the next turn, somebody else going off on a combo.
Yeah, it was just like, So we just were like, what is this? It's kind of getting boring just seeing the same cards, dude. Yeah. Like that's the truth. But one of the things, and this is, I think I've told this story a couple times. One of the like jarring moments for me, this is what we were doing was we would pick like a weaker commander and we would pump it full of expensive cards. So Brad had put together this Atempsis commander. He was like just kind of preening about this deck for a while. Atempsis is it's a long shot. Essentially, like you have to get the commander down, you have to connect with the commander, and then you have to reveal your hand and show that you have 6 different permanent or 6 different card mana values or something, and then that person just flat loses, right? Yeah. And so of course, this deck of his is just loaded with every blue staple you could possibly think of to make sure this is going to happen. At one point, I think it was one game where he had Mystic Remora, Rhystic Study, and his hand was completely loaded. And then as we try to deal with it, he's drawing cards off of these 2 effects. Yeah. And he emptied his hand of like every motherfucking free mana spell that I've ever seen to prevent his commander
which
from
all
getting
have
killed.
Different values, right?
So but then the game before that, he did like nothing. Like he had like a complete non-game. So we had this like revelation of this thing that I think I talk about it a couple times in this deck is just, this is why I bring it up, because It's the last deck I think of mine where I'm like, I don't know what to do about it. Where you have these massive power spikes built into a deck. It's harder for us to do now because that whole list of cards we don't use anymore. They're sitting in binders in our rooms now. We don't use them here. You have these massive power spikes in a deck that on the surface shouldn't be that powerful, right? Like somebody could say like Craterhoof Behemoth is a representative example of something like this. Like candidly, your General Marhalt deck is not that powerful. It's not. It's a vulnerable deck, but randomly, I guess if you drop a Craterhoof, like it'll jump up and end life. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that because it's like kind of a game-ending thing.
Sure.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's some commanders and some decks. There's not a way to program a Chernobylian style event into the deck where, oh my God, this thing normally is down here in its regular operating temperature, but today it's 15,000 degrees and we need to fucking deal with this like now kind of thing because of a card. Smothering Tithe, I think, is one of them. It's just like, it's one of the most excused game changers I think I've seen, where it's just like, because it's white and it's, but it's insane. It is absolutely a reactor card to me, where it will massively bring the power level of the deck up just by its very presence. The number of game actions they can do is now going way up.
Well,
like
but
it would be in this deck,
even
absolutely.
in decks that are a little weaker, like some of those things, like a Tooth and Nail in a General Marhalt with the right creatures being slotted into the deck could be
funny. It's funny those aren't there yet, right? Tooth and Nail, and
like
the other green one that tutors them right into play.
Yeah, because there's two creature win cons that you can program into a deck and get a Tooth and Nail that can just put them into play. Right? Like there's stuff you like that you can do that. I haven't done that because we don't do the tutor thing, but like with General Marhalt, there's totally a place to go if I wanted to fucking power that sucker up.
So
right?
do you think I've characterized this a little? Yeah. Maybe it was a lot of too much context with these eras, but still. But the power spike thing was kind of the last moment before we, I think, moved into, I think I'm having more fun playing Commander than ever. Yeah. No question. Yeah. And we played a lot of Commander like over the years, but right now I love how it works. There's problems on its own because of what we've done, but like they're manageable and they can be socially managed throughout the game. They're not like, I don't know what to do. Yeah. Like we can deal with somebody who's just abusing green like crazy if we just work together as a team, God damn you. Yeah. But that's a social thing, not a cardboard thing, I guess. And so I'm really happy with where we're at, but there's these little vestiges, I think, and that remain from that last bit of, okay, well, we dealt with the game changers, but there's still this like, maybe there's a power spike somewhere in these decks. And I think this deck possesses one where what I've described doesn't seem that nuts. It's like, okay, he gets Big Angel and then maybe 2 Big Angel. Like that's kind of the thing, right? But when these two get melded together, it's a lot. Like at first I thought, well, we're playing at a higher mana altitude, I think, across the board, just because the style of play down here kind of requires it. I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal, but it turns out, dude, 3 mana is like the number. That block, it's not the size of the Eldrazi that's the problem. I would say it's the block.
It's the blocking of those spells.
It basically says board wipe, or there's really no way to get her. Like it shuts down Generous Gift, it shuts down Beast Within, Path, all of these. Like there's no way to get her anymore. And I'm kind of like...
It shuts down, like, even if it's the only thing you've got, like Fleshbag Marauder.
Yeah, it shuts down Fleshbag Marauder.
Like, all that kind of shit just doesn't happen.
Yeah, so your normal tools to deal with the size of this thing go down to board wipe. But then, if I have the mana, we'll just start right back over. Like, I'll let Gisela hit the yard. Bruna's in the command zone. We'll go back again. And the way the rest of the deck is built. So it's like, it's got to be something like a fucking Farewell, which... you can't use anymore. You got to like a Merkovic or something. Like it's hard to drop it. There are plenty of, an Utter End will deal with it. It's 4 mana, but
who's using fucking Utter End anymore?
Utter End, So it's this random power spike, I guess, that exists inside this thing. Yeah. And it doesn't make sense for you to try to kit your decks out to deal with this.
It's one deck.
It's one deck and it's one card in that deck. Yeah. And how many games have I've won I've won plenty of games without ever doing
without
it.
Seeing Gisela.
Yeah, it honestly brings a lot of heat my way, and I'm like, I don't know if I can handle this right now. Sometimes I'm like, this is the moment I can fucking do it. Here we go. Yeah. Meld is so sick. I set off like this, I don't know, I guess whatever, but like Brad has a meld deck now. Cameron has a meld deck now. Chris has a meld deck now. Like everybody was like, this is just too fucking, because it's big, dude.
I'll do it when everybody takes theirs apart.
Yeah. Or they come out with some weird meld mill monster that just like you meld.
I'm like, well, okay, that's it.
No, that's it. But it's sick because like it's just huge, right? You put the cards horizontally on top of each other, and it's just this big, nightmarish,
it's impressive
presence. And I just, mercifully, this one's vigilant because you don't have to tap them sideways. But it's just a warning, I guess, dear listener, if you care about that, like it's something that your opponents will go like, what the fuck do we do, kind of thing. And you absolutely become the target. You'll be probably okay to weather it, but it's just too cool for me to like leave on the table. I struggle with it because like if I just took Gisela out and told everybody she's not in the deck.
But then why?
Yeah.
Why Bruna if not Gisela?
This is what I love about you, Kyle, is that you support just the strategy over, you're like, well, then why are we doing, That's not Tiff's attitude at all. Like you're the only person who was sad to see Marisol go. Everyone was like, rest in peace, you piece of shit. You won't be missed.
Well, like,
you were like, but why?
I do want to cheer
Who else
on
in the game does
I mean,
that?
don't get me wrong. Marisol's fucking miserable, but I want to cheer on my friends having the type of experiences they want to have. Right.
Yeah.
And it's not like you're coming to the table being like, well, it's a fucking Marisol night. Prepare your ass.
Yeah,
it's the only deck I'm playing.
I don't really
it's
do
one
that.
game every few weeks, like
something like that.
Like
yeah. And just to say, like I've won games without the Brazella and I've lost games with the Brazella. So, but then I've won games with the Brazella too. I love this deck. I haven't had a good experience with mono white most of my Commander career.
Yeah.
I made this one just off of a whim one day.
And it fucking works.
And it worked pretty good. And I'm like, let me just get some upgrades for it. And I love it. I think everyone gets a chance to do their thing with this game. It's not that crazy, but it definitely
I will say
is on
there's
the side
a window
of,
too, because the meld happens at end of turn. So if you've got instant speed interaction, it works.
Yeah. Let's slide over to this other idea. So I temporarily ran a version of this like earlier and I didn't really make a list for it. I think I played it like a couple nights and it just felt weird. And I was like, I don't know if I got this right.
Gotcha.
So I went back and did this on, I'm not weirdly, 9 times out of 10 when I just make decks out of my collection without the help of an app to keep track of the cards that I'm selecting and their purpose and their categories and all the stuff that's a level of precision that I'm not usually doing. I'm really not great at just kind of making up decks, dude.
I'm not practiced at that. Dude. I'm with you.
Me and Brad, we like to cook. Mm-hmm. The way Brad cooks ain't how I cook. I find a recipe that makes sense and I will modify it from there. Or I'll try it as it's supposed to be. It's the pre-con and I'll be like, yeah, this is pretty good, but I think it could use this. I could use that. Unless it's something more familiar, know. Brad doesn't. He just fucking wings it.
He's jazzed, dude.
He just wings it. He's like,
jazzed.
He'll wake up one day and he'll be like, I'm going to make a gumbo. And I'm like, what's a gumbo? And he'll like make it and he'll bring it over and he'll drop it off at my place. And I'll be like, what the hell am I eating? And it's really good. And there's no recipe. I'll be like, hey man, do you have the recipe? No recipe. I'm like, fuck off. Like, dude, so I can't recreate it.
You jerk.
And then he can't recreate it. It's just a little bit of this and a little bit of that. That's just how he is.
Yeah.
He's the same way with his decks. I get this all the time in the Discord where people are like, "Where's this list? Where's Brad's?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry, like
it's just in his head."
Sometimes,
and I would tell you it's in the sleeves, but he probably changed it since he played it last. So.
Yes, the way he engages in this hobby is chaos. He's a commander cube. Brad's more of like a phenomenon than like a deck builder.
True,
and
that's a really good way.
And it's an incomplete phenomenon always, like life and the rest of the universe. So. Me and him just work differently. He can sit down and make a pretty damn good deck and he'll play it and I'll be looking at his card choices because like we'll hang out sometimes and just that's what we do, right?
Yeah.
And I'll be like, this looks fucking stupid. What are you doing? This looks terrible. And then he'll play it and I'll be like, oh my God, But I'm not. And every time I sit down to do that, like I have to have like a loose plan and then I'll try to adapt it based off the cards I have. But they're like adjacent adaptations.
I haven't tried to do this kind of shit since like 2014.
This ain't
I don't
you
even
at
know
all.
how to do it.
Yeah, this ain't you at all. So, which is crazy because you're actually good at draft, which I feel like is
Yeah, but with Commander, it's kind of like
too much. Yeah, Cameron is an insane draft player. I guess like on
he's
MT,
quite practiced.
I guess on what is it, MTG Arena, he's in the top 2% now.
That's wild.
Whatever level that is, he's in there. Cam is an extremely good Magic player. He's scary to play against. Like last time I played against him, he completely tore my game apart. You would have been laughing your ass off. I went from being like, I have got this. There's no fucking way to no board, no hand, no graveyard by the time he was done with me with his mono black deck.
It's a good feeling to do that to Andy.
I was just like, wow.
You fucking farewelled Andy, dude, without a farewell.
With his mono black deck. I was like, do you need a cigarette or anything? Like, it was crazy, dude. Cameron is a very impressive deck builder.
Andy's got to go wipe up.
Yeah.
He's fucking dripping.
I was like, good work. Good work. Anyway, but I kind of made this deck from an adaptation and it didn't really fit that well. So I went back and I was like, okay, I'm going to try this again, but with, the website that we use, right? Architect.
Yeah.
So this is Bruna, the Fading Light, but now we're going to change some stuff from the foundation up. So we're not just going to swap cards out and be like, well, let's just bring the land count up and get rid of some of the artifacts. Cause I think I demonstrated why they're there. Like there's the Stone Speaker Crystal, which can nuke yards. There's this other, like they have technology on top of them. I'm trying to get the best that I can out of them.
Yeah.
And then they're kind of weaved in with, the mirepoix of this recipe is artifact ramp, a higher board wipe density, and like kind of a medium-sized land count. That's that one, right?
Yeah.
The mirepoix over here is, okay, higher mana or land count, more MDFCs, because I think I can afford to have them in my hand for longer without having to use them, or if I want to use them, I can, and whatever, however you want to go about that, whatever your discipline is. And then a easier curve when we're talking about creatures.
Yeah. See? Okay. So, I am seeing the difference here.
So like you said, I'm seeing 44 with MDFC.
Spoiled that.
Pretty high. and then the ramp is 6.
Okay.
So it's still pretty high.
I'm trusting land plays.
Yeah, but Seasoned Dungeoneers here, because that I think works across both.
Yeah.
Knight of the White Orchids here, but now we actually do see Pearl Medallion, because I don't think that Pearl Medallion helps you double spell with that other deck. I don't know how you get two angels out at once.
Yeah, it's a good point.
With the way that deck was working. There's not a lot of white wheel spells that help you draw and discard and then cast an angel. It just never felt okay. I love the medallions. They're great cards. But for that deck, it didn't make sense. But over here, because we're going to be our plan is different, our game will exist differently in the earlier phases. I feel like it makes better sense. Sword of the Animist is here, and Sword of Hearth and Home is here.
Yeah.
Because there will be likely creatures to attach them to. Sword of the Animist is a very good card. It probably needs to get removed when you see it. It is a land play every turn plus their land play in decks
sneaky.
That often don't deserve it.
It's sneaky.
And eventually it has like a bit of a thinning effect on the game a little bit.
Yeah.
Like after a while, when they've gotten 4 to 5 of these fucking...
Yeah, the odds are higher of drawing the gas.
I adore Sword of the Animist. Sword of the Hearth and Home is a power crept Sword of the Animist. Not only does it go grab a land, but it comes in untapped and then it flickers a target, which...
I mean, if you've got some of these, like, if you're in a situation with the Knight of the White Orchid, probably not if you're using this fucking sword.
But
maybe.
It's Angel of the Ruins.
Fuck yeah.
Any of your reanimation target kind of things.
Yeah.
Removal's lower, right? Because we can't be just sweeping if we're going to have an earlier board state. So we only have 4. And they're basically sculpted around a lower power base with creatures, right?
Yeah.
So Slaughter the Strong, Dusk. This is a strong way to play in white, actually, if you shape your explosives around the board presence.
I like that.
Rather than trying to go up and over them with a bunch of anthems, just tear them down, just destroy them, right? Like get rid of the stuff that's better than your guys. This is a very strong way to play in white. There's Fell the Mighty. There's a ton of ways to basically like jink things in your favor, rather than being like, I need anthems because my creatures are only 2/2s. Yeah, eventually you need to bring it. But that's what the angels are here for. So there's a few. I think the ones that make sense that talk back to the smaller, earlier creature count. Karmic Guide is still here. Angel of Indemnity is now here. And Angel of Glory's Rise is here. So that kind of spoils that this deck will be focused on the human side of Bruna, that she actually reanimates a human
as well,
and not just an angel. So if you've been boarded or somebody's cleared you off and you've lost all your humans, you can cast Angel of Glory's Rise, rubber band them all back into play.
Ooh.
They board wipe you again. Then you go grab Bruna and you start right back over again because you grab Angel of Glory's Rise. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So tough, like I like tough decks. Like that's my aim. Since we're focusing on humans, yeah, I mean, like you're going to have...
Can I just say, I have been desperate.
What?
Desperate for years with
For
Angel of Glory's Rise to get the like zombie, like catch somebody with a bunch of zombies.
Oh, exile the zombie side of it?
Yeah.
Because the human side of zombie apocalypse happens all the time.
Right.
Everybody's got a human commander. They don't just,
Right. Because I've had this card in a number of decks, and it was one of those that like we were playing standard, I think, when it came out. And I had a few, and I've just never had the circumstances to catch somebody like when you were playing Tormod, I'm like, maybe I'll get him. Maybe I'll fucking get him
that would
sometime.
Suck. But I'd be like, yeah.
But it never happened.
Nowadays, she needs to probably nuke a yard and do the zombies.
It's true.
Like, where they have nowhere to hide because they'd be like, well, I'm going to suck in response. Oh, you coward bitch.
It's true. Come on.
You little bitch. Yeah. Yeah, so Greymon's here, right? Things that help the humans. He's the best one. I didn't really go all in on this. I wasn't getting like the Thalia's.
Sure.
Whatever. But
sure.
Yeah. Balden's Sentry Herdmaster is pretty wild.
I love Balden.
I know, dude. 6 mana for a 0/7. During your turn, each creature assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. I mean, him alone with Brazella, they'll deal 10.
Yes.
Or 11, right? They'll deal 11. Whenever Balden attacks, up to 100 target creatures each get +0/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of cards in your hand. He basically Hand of Vecnas all of your creatures.
Yeah.
They get massive toughness, which is really annoying for your opponents to block, and they deal damage.
And they deal damage with it.
So he's fucking wild, dude, Balden. Audric Lunarch Marshall's in here because like Brazella is both vigilant and flying. So when she comes down, now all of your creatures that have preceded her now are jumped up in the air and now vigilant and flying. Like her 2 keywords alone. But you know, like,
and there's some others in the deck as well.
There's lifelink on the angels. I mean, like the Radiant Solar. Radiant Solar is flying lifelink.
Yeah.
So that Audric is very good, dear listener. He's one hell of a card. Both Audrics are. All Audrics are.
Yeah, I mean the battle shaping, and then this one.
Yeah, there's the battle shaping, and then the keyword soup one, and then there's Cole's Audric. But these two are really good. Angel of Jubilation's here because it has that anthem also.
Oh, right.
A white what is it? What does it say?
Non-black.
Other non-black creatures you control get +1/+1. And then players can't pay life or sacrifice creatures to cast spells or activate abilities.
That part comes up, that type of ability comes up infrequently enough that it changes the mood in the room when it shows up.
Yeah.
People go, wait, what? I can't what? Yeah. Get fucked.
I put a lot of Soul Sisters in here too. I thought you'd be into this.
I'm into it. I saw those.
Guide of Souls, Sarah's Ascendant, Soul Warden, Soul's Attendant, Ariok Champion, which is Kyle proved how crazy that one is, and Distinguished Conjurer. There are more. There's an angel that does it now from like one of the sets. It's like I think it's one of the jump starts or something like that. She's like a 3/4 flyer or for 3.
You've got Halia in here that gives you card draw.
Correct. So Halia's in the draw section. She should probably come over here too. Archangel of Thune. It's an expensive pickup, but with how much lifelink exists across our creatures and all of these. So these are early. These cards are annoying early. People, at least where we're at, they don't have an appetite to remove them. I think I just kind of wait for them to attrition out, like
because they'll die just by virtue of existing.
Yeah, it seems like Brad's attitude about them is you're going to be forced to use them as blockers because I'm going to keep coming at you, kind of thing. But,
yes,
I wouldn't use a Bruna cast on one of these, but they're here. They're here to pad your life experience and keep your game going a little earlier. And they're good. They're good early drops, especially Guide of Souls. That thing is wild. It gives a flying counter to something else. Distinguished Conjurer ends up being a flicker.
It does. It's an expensive flicker activation, but it's available.
Yeah. flexibility.
Yeah.
Right. Like you never know.
Yeah.
Every game I'll gain life on it. Some games I'll flicker. I mean, shit, like seasoned dungeoneer, maybe if I'm like, I want to grab the initiative again, or that Angel of Glory's Rise, like who the fuck knows, right? Like what works, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you can kind of see the texture is different. Celestine, the Living Saints here, good. She's a human that could be reanimated from Bruna, but also she does her own version of reanimation.
Yeah.
I probably should have Sun Titan.
And has lifelink.
Probably should have Sun Titan in here. Ascend from Avernus is not in the other deck because the mana cost to get that to work is it just doesn't. But here it makes better sense.
You're going to catch a lot of humans with
you're curved lower, right? Cosmic Grand Zenith, both Thalias are here. The one that taxes non-creature and the one that forces stuff to come in tapped. You could take this further with some of those Staxy hate bear dudes if you wanted to. That's as far as I went. I was like, I'll just do the stuff that limits people's non-creature gluttony and the one that forces stuff to come in tapped. So the deck
Heretic Cathara is another one of those cards that was expensive when it was in standard and then cratered.
Yeah, she was actually pricey, wasn't she? So that's the idea, right? Akruma's Will, Sigarda's Vanguard, Moonshaker Cavalry. These are where we're headed. It's more of like a white weenie style list versus the other one, which is like lots of artifacts, board wipes, and an angel or two.
Yeah. That's
what this is looking to do.
Yeah.
But you see that, like, I think all the way down to the basement, it has to change. Like the draw even looks different, right? Like Firemane Commando isn't in the other deck because it's actually kind of hard for me to get 2 creatures to attack with in a timely manner, even though it's an angel and it's a great one. It's a 4/3 with flying. It just isn't. I couldn't. Every time I tried it, I just felt like it was giving other cards to other people before it was giving it to me too soon. Here it's much easier, right? Adeline is here. Like she's a
really good.
She's
card.
a great human wholesale. In the other deck, I don't know. I'm likely just to sweep the board. She's not enough to like keep me up with everybody in that deck. I can't compound on it. But with all these Soul Sisters in this deck, plus Angel of Thune with her, it would just be wild, like there's more compounding on having more of these creatures. One could go after and be like, hey, I'm going to get Takaja's Welcome and the Battery of White draw stuff, and you'd probably be okay. So I guess what I'm going for is the commander remains the same in both. It's just that how we're going to, the recipe for that commander is a little different. And it can't be just less signets, more land, playing on curve. I think you kind of have to put together this mirepoix or this holy trinity of, okay, but what am I doing in this phase of the game? Am I going to be more disruptive because I tend to lose less because I'm more footed on these artifacts. So with the artifacts, I'll do these other things that tear people's stuff down. I'll go underneath them, right? Mm-hmm. Or here I'll go over the top and I'm going to punish the people for having the signets in another way. Where here you're going to be able to bring it to somebody quicker and start bringing their life total down soon, because they're not out as early as you. You could tune the aggressiveness to this however you want.
With this one, I want to like validate your intuitions, right? So like this one mirrors a lot of what I'm doing with my Hope S-Time deck.
Yeah.
And
you could tear the Soul Sisters out. I was like, I don't know. I just want to see how they feel.
Well, sure, but there's a lot of weirdly, it's something that's lower curve. There's earlier plays, and I ran my hand out the first couple times I played it, and I was drawing a lot of rocks that like when I was top decking, I'm like,
cool rocks.
Okay,
like,
this
cool,
is a wasted
rocks.
Fucking turn.
Don't
literally,
my Soul Sisters.
I'm like, I'm out of hand, and one thing I drew is an arcane signet. Like this isn't helping. So my deck that's akin to this ish. I went down to 8 ramp spells. Mm-hmm. I brought my land count up, and I brought my draw count up.
Yeah,
I did like same fucking exercise because I'm like, yeah, this doesn't fit into that traditional.
And what ramp cards? I'm just curious, like, because you can see I didn't abandon it, but you can see like why they're here.
I am still candidly using a couple, but like, there's a combination. So I have like land tax, so I can just be stripping the lands out of my library, right? Will Scion of Peace, which is
he's life gain
ramp,
totally
right?
Makes sense.
And then like the Deep Gnome Terramancers here. So I have a mixture, but some of it's relevant to the deck of just stripping
but the
cards
signets
out.
and talismans are gone. It's more like
There's some of them. I have like Arcane Signet, Azorius Signet, but like I brought that count of that type of stuff down.
Yeah.
And we'll see. I may be like, I actually don't want any of those. They should just be something else.
Yeah. They could just be MDFCs.
Yeah. Yeah. So
there's an Azorius MDFC that taps all creatures target opponent controls, just taps them out.
Which is great.
You're like, hey, let's knock all your stuff down. Do you know how fucking shields like you like Bluster Squall? It only does one person and does some with energy. I think it's called Suppression Ray, but it's like,
oh no, you're right. It is an Azorius one, right?
Yeah,
like, yeah.
Okay,
that one's actually, I like cards like that where like if you want to have this be part of your energy counters deck, you can. But it has but it has utility generally.
It shields down somebody.
Yeah.
How many people survive because of their blockers? I mean, like if we just talk about this Angel deck.
Yeah.
My first one.
Yeah.
And I'm betting on having all this stuff to block. And you're like, hey, let's shove it down, guys, and let's get in there. And you work it out where it's like, it's enough to take me out.
Yeah. Between the three of us, we can get him.
Yeah. But it's also a land.
Yes.
You know? So,
but anyways, I want to kind of confirm your intuitions with this of like, hey, there are instances of like, it is a very different land construction, ramp construction for what you're doing with the Angels version versus the kind of lower curved humans version.
I messed around with like venture into the dungeon here. There was actually kind of a number of humans that do it, and it feels good. There's a card where it's a thorough investigation, where if you attack, you get a clue, and if you use a clue, you venture.
Yeah,
you're just mining the best of whatever you can get with white. Yeah, you could put your like you could load the white staples in here, like Chivalric Alliance is in here. You could grab the artifacts. I mean, like I have Minas Tirith. Like I like Minas Tirith in decks like this.
Yeah.
But what is the draw count? It's not too low with this deck, isn't it?
I thought you were at
16.
Like, yeah, I was like, I think you're pretty high.
15. Yeah, 15. And that's not counting the lands that do it, like Bonder's Enclave and what is it? War Room, Minas Tirith. Like you can get lands off of those. So 16 is, I think, a healthy amount of draw for
low curve
curve type deck. Yeah. The white weenie package stuff is not in here. You probably could go after it.
Yeah.
But I wanted to stick with this whole like human thing.
I like that.
But this feels good. Every time I've play tested it, it felt like, okay, I'm here, I'm present, I've got the thing going on. And then if it all comes apart, there's a way to kind of flip back and get them back into play a little bit with Bruna. And then Bruna herself is just like you said, like she's a 5/7 flyer that's just out there. And of course, Gisella's in the 99.
Yeah.
And it's like, if there's any deck I want to try to block anything from happening, it probably would be this one where it's like, okay, we're going no further. So I've been messing with low power stuff for a minute. And I'm kind of letting that inform how I made this deck.
Yeah.
I made a Sig River Cutthroat deck this year. I've loved that commander for a long time. Way back in the day, I think me and Kyle made a version of them.
Yeah, I did the good Sig.
He did the Azorius Sig and I did the Demir Sig, and his was better than mine. And this was way back in the Stone Ages of
But that was an instant where I propped it up with staples.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good deck.
My best game was when a Consphinx just got allowed to fucking run wild.
Yeah, I think he'd be good still to this day. And they have that third Sig now, good bad Sig. But I put it together, and the concept was I want a 3-power unblockable creature, a flyer or something. I want one every opening hand, so I can be the person who forces the draw out of forces the draw at his end step. And he kind of presented this problem of like, well, so what are you going to do on the turn that he comes down? And it was weird because it's like getting him down on turn 2 felt strange because it wasn't likely that somebody was going to lose life that early unless somebody's doing like a fetch shock thing.
Yeah.
But like it just didn't actually happen all that often. So he kind of presents this problem of like, yeah, I'm in the mana value where you want to Signet, but he doesn't really do anything.
But you don't want to play him.
He's kind of like, just a nice blocker or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm not really riding on haste. So it's really like you want to get him out after you have somebody who can finally untap and attack, your weird fairy or whatever, or your latchkey guy or your true name nemesis or whatever you're using. So it became like this strange deck of, do I want signets? So I loaded them in. I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do enough of them to have them early game. But then I'd kind of just like flare out. I would like get all these like flyers down and I can only draw one card. So he has like this hard limiter on himself of like, well, okay, you took it as far as you can. you can draw one card. You're dealing more damage to people, but like, I hope that card's a fucking counterspell to protect everything that
because you're doing too much fucking damage.
So then I went the other direction. I'm like, okay, well now I just want aggressively costed Dimir colored creature. So that's why that demon showed up. I'm like, well, it's a 6/6 flying trample for 4. It has a massive downside of, old school.
You can't
style,
fucking win.
But man, he is one hell of a way to get that card from Sig, dude. It's like
true story.
He fucking hurts. Like you're losing 6. It's like he's taking heaps off your life total. And then eventually he's a really good blocker too, because you're like, fuck, I don't want this guy to die. I'm dead.
But like that is another good example of like evaluating this deck's relationship with the signets, all that kind of shit. Like, so does the ramp actually fit what you truly are doing?
I'd have that weird undead dog that it's a 6/4 menace for 3.
Yeah.
But it gives out 2 tokens to somebody, or the hunted thing that gives out the 2 whatever, but it's a 7/7 for 2. Like that's what I was doing instead. I'm like, I'm just going to go all the way and just be in your face quicker and not spend time goofing around with these signets, and it works okay. It's not my best deck, not even by a long shot, but it's a really fun deck to play. And he just kind of sits around and lets me draw cards here and there. Like he alone will get me maybe 4 to 5, maybe over the course of a game.
Yeah.
If I'm having a bad game, he gets me cards because people are too busy hammering on the people that are having good games. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get a card. And then I can quickly help him participate. Like one of the funnest games we played all year was that one where Brad was, that was an amazingly fun game for me.
True.
Brad was blowing the fuck up, and you and me and Zach like had to work together, and it's
fun magic.
It's fun magic. Like that was a good one. So there's that, right? Where I wasn't sure how to make it work. I'm like, well, he doesn't want signets because he's a 2-mana commander, but he doesn't really do anything when he first comes out. So let me try putting them in. But like, it just, the way I get my cards, it feels weird. I hit this weird ceiling and these cards are getting in my fucking way. And like, so let's go backwards. And like, so there's not like a prescriptive way I think I want to get behind to go about this.
Yeah.
I wanted to pick somebody who it's like, it's so obvious that powering them out doesn't make sense.
True.
That's Bruna. Like powering her out, I just don't think makes sense unless you've got something already in your yard and you're set up to do it. So I wanted to do a deck where both do it. You know, like they're high mana value commander. She's 7 mana. That's not nothing. So I think I hope I've presented this okay of like, well, here's one where you curve up to her.
Yeah.
You have a pretty stiff board presence as we're getting there. You have creatures that are worth pulling back. You have creatures that people really want to get rid of. And then some angels in between that have a good relationship with those creatures, like, Sigarda's Vanguard or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
But then here's this other way, but we can't just like not have a board state and just be wide open to people for them to roll us with their Boros whatever.
Yeah.
Or their jacked up equipped nightmare death machine that they put together with all of the equipment ever on it. Like I'm not going to just do that. Like, I've chosen my path. This is what I'm doing. So here's the ramp. Here's the clear. Oh, we'll see you next turn, you know? And then now there's a stiff blocker in your way,
Which I like that.
So
yeah,
I want to do this a couple more times, not necessarily focused on this mana thing, like,
but doing different versions. I think it is
mana and land thing.
I actually think this is a really good exercise. I mean, I was a fan of it years ago. I think it is a good exercise to look at commanders from very different lenses with how you can build around them. I know the EDH rec kind of presents you that with the tags that are manifest, but sometimes it feels a little unclean. Trying to sort through what's on EDH rec. I think going through, like talking through what has actually been brewed is a useful exercise.
Yeah, it's good that you say this. Like, I would not call these two different themes. I'm just trying to approach these from two different dimensions. One is like they're just two different recipes. Like my analogy, right?
Yeah.
The mirepoix is different. One's using this holy trinity and the other one's not. Like, it's just a different recipe for a similar, and in our case, exactly the same commander. But I like always with this show, I'm just trying to get people to start thinking about things a little different than they might have.
Right.
Maybe the listener has a commander that they're like, I just need to ramp this guy. Like, they're just too good to have out. So before this, as you were coming over, I was working on another alternative way to kind of get this point across. Cause I'm like, I don't know, Bruna's weird. Like, this is a weird thing to talk about. I was doing Lorehold, the new one.
Oh yeah.
And the reason why it came to my mind is one time I was playing this Bruna deck against Zach's Lorehold deck. And I'm watching him just do his discard draw thing as he's going around the table. And I'm sitting here looking at a bunch of cards in my hand, and I know they're in my list of their only function is to do that.
Right.
And I'm like, God damn, dude, if only I just had that in the command zone. So we end the game. I can't remember what he ended up doing. Like his deck was kind of doing its thing and whatever. And the next day I logged onto my machine and I'm like, I just got to get this out of my veins. I got to see if this is going to work. So I sit down and I load the list up, right? And so where I ended was basically the list that I have, the Bruna deck, but 18 reanimation cards.
Instead of all
that are all sorceries and
shit.
Instants, right? And so the idea is that, one of the things that Reanimator can suffer from, it's kind of like a ramp deck, is that you draw the wrong half of your deck.
Yeah.
I got all my reanimation spells, but none of my targets. Or I have all my targets and none of my reanimation spells and no mana, which that's another problem that like this is kind of solving a little bit. But I make the deck and I'm like, he just needs to be out. Every time I played it, I was like, he just needs to be out. This dragon is the way I cut the wrong half of my deck into the graveyard and then start reducing the cost of these reanimation spells down to 2.
So you got to ramp it out.
So you can imagine the deck is a high mana rot quotient. It's like, get him out, get him into play,
and then
start looting. And then even if he gets bricked, those same reanimation targets can restart us.
Yeah.
The deck it'll rip. It feels very strong. Like every time I've goldfished it, it feels a little too tough because it can do the same things. Like it can still do the Karmic Guide, whatever reanimation chains, and it has Feldon. Like
true story.
And it has Jaxus, which is like, it has other ways to get around it. And then, and then it has these other ways like, if I had something like a Pirate's Pillage in a deck like this, I would fucking nut. But I don't get one because I'm in mono white.
Right.
But like, can you imagine right before my goddamn turn begins, I can not Pirate's Pillage, a big score.
All that kind of shit.
Those ones, right? Yeah. Like right before my turn, I ditch the thing I want to reanimate, get some treasures from my time, and then rip it out. Like this is just outside of the miracle.
Enough treasures for the fucking cost of your miracle.
This is outside of the miracle. I'm like playing this thing over and over again. I even like dug up there's a Portals 3 Kingdom version of just reanimate. I think it's like late to dinner without the food. It's like $18 because it's from Portals 3 Kingdom. And I'm like, dude, if I ever proxied a card, it would be this. It's a 35-cent effect on an $18 card, dude. Please. Like, but it felt really good.
Yeah.
So today I was like, okay, well, what do I do? How do I do the alternative with this? I couldn't get there. I couldn't figure it out.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
You're like, this is good, but I don't know what else.
Well, so I tried to do like a wheels deck. Yeah. I'm like, okay, well then we'll do wheeling. We'll wheel. There's plenty of effects in these colors that care about discard. Like we'll do that.
Sure.
And it just felt strange. There wasn't a version of Lorehold so far that I've messed with.
This would be another interesting one where it's like there is one path that feels really good, but exploring some others.
Yeah. So I guess what somebody could be hearing me say right now is that my idea for Lorehold is the correct one. It's not. It's a version of it. It's a flavor. You could call that one Lorehold of the Vast. It's your Angel's Dragon Reanimator deck because those are the best targets in those colors, like 9 times out of 10, right? Or your Lorehold of Clan Neltoth deck, if that's what you want to call it. But what I was trying to do was do what we did today, where I could cut the mana curve down, bring the land count up, and then have something that exists on the way to Lorehold.
Gotcha.
But the versions I was messing with, I'm like, I don't, if we're thinking about what we discussed with Spellslinger, I just don't think he cares about low mana value spells. So what am I doing between turn 1 and 5?
Yeah, like let's get there.
So far in my exploration of lore, because I do this, I beat Legends to death. Like how many versions of Shigeki did I build? Like so far in all of my Lorehold exploration, I don't know how you don't do the let's get him the fuck out. He's just too good to leave in the zone. And you want to have enough mana to protect him with your Bolt Bend and your Deflecting Swat. I guess that's free. But like, you're one from Avatar, I suppose. So, right?
Yeah.
And your Malfunction card that swerves a spell. He's just too good to have out.
He's really fucking
if the
good.
Deck's ready to be good for him.
to operate with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I fucking love
Gisela, you would get the original Gisela.
Oh, hell yeah.
Just reanimate her. And then
double
he himself
damage,
is a
cut
fucking
damage in half.
5/5 on his own.
Yeah.
That's haste.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, right before my turn begins. And it felt so amazing because all these slots that are in my angel deck, those six, they're gone. They're in the zone.
Yeah.
And now I get red. So it's like, all right, I'm going to anger. Turn. Avacyn.
This is making me mad.
Like,
this is making me mad.
Yeah. You're like, fuck that, dude. That is not okay. And then we get to my turn and I'm like,
yeah. Yeah. Some legends are like, I'm happy for Zach.
Yeah. I'm very happy for Zach. I'm very happy for Zach. So I maybe we'll do this again. If we have where I kind of look at this thing, but yeah, I'm glad you said that. It's not like a theme thing I'm trying here.
No.
In this episode, I'm really just saying like, hey, can we change the main ingredient substrate of this thing?
Yeah.
And does it feel like it works? And sometimes it won't. Like, yeah. So, like in the lore hold idea, as far as I could tell, I'm just like, this just feels just clunky. I can't get this to feel right at all.
Yeah.
I really just want the fucking dragon out the sooner.
Just let's go.
Later. Even though I was like, I'm writing the fact that I discard every turn. So I had everything in the game that cared about that action, and it still just didn't feel like enough.
That's kind of wild.
Yeah. What's next?
So we have collected from our Tech Tutor supporting Patreon listeners a set of lists for a Before You Go episode. I will just spoil preview to everybody. So this will include Edge of Eternities.
Yeah.
Spider-Man. Avatar. And Lorwyn Eclipsed. 0 Spider-Man submissions.
Yeah. Well.
Turns out proof is in the pudding. People didn't fucking like that set. So
yes, proof. The final nail in the coffin is that the Legendary Creature Podcast Patreon supporter meta didn't give Kyle any decks for that. That's it.
But
That's
also proof is in the pudding that Avatar Last Airbender was quite liked.
No.
So.
All right. Okay.
Anyways, but that'll be coming up next. And then.
Yeah, I look forward to those because that's a good look back on, just the last battery of sets before you go to the next one.
And I just like listener tech, like seeing what people are up to.
Yes.
So
yeah, we've gotten some. We've gotten some decks in our meta that were directly inspired by
these episodes.
Yeah,
for sure.